Welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners like you to maximize your business value and achieve the exit of your dreams, whatever that means to you. With insights gained from over 100 business transactions, we share real-world strategies, lessons, and expert advice to help you build long-term, sustainable value in your business. Each episode is hosted by one of our Mastery certified partners. They're seasoned experts who've helped countless business owners navigate the complexities of growth, scaling, and building value. They bring first-hand experience, actionable insights, and a passion for helping you build a business that thrives. So let's dive in.
Hi, this is Dave Casey, and welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast. Now, this is a podcast for business leaders who are really serious about building long-term sustainable growth and value in their company. Today, I'm excited to be joined by one of our own, Terry Chevalier. So Terry is a certified partner here at Mastery Partners, as well as he's a renowned consultant in the telecommunications world, and I'll let him talk a little bit about that. So Terry, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, well, thanks, Dave. It's good to be back. Good to see you.
Yeah, this is like
And great to talk
swapping
about that.
roles
Yeah,
sometimes for us.
that's right. That's right. We were always looking for great conversations and great content to bring to our clients and to our
Yeah,
listeners.
super, super. So I know you've been on the podcast several times and you've even hosted it in the past.
Mhm.
But refresh our guests a little bit about your background and how you came to Mastery.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, every time somebody asks me, I got to tell you, Dave, every time somebody asks me that question, I have this flashback to Austin Powers where, Dr. Evil says, the circumstances of my, origination are quite, minimal, but effectively, so what I do is I help companies to grow, scale, or exit. And I'm normally brought in at very strategic inflection points, which is, points of growth, points of I've got something's broken, I got to get fixed, or hey, I'm looking to actually exit and move on. And a lot of my work is in the telecommunications sector, but it's infrastructure, telecommunications, technology, you name it. And so it's been great to do that. And one of the best things is working with Mastery has really helped build out sort of that part of my tool set, being
Yeah.
able to really bring all of the tools that Mastery has developed, all the know-how, working with people like yourself, Dave, is just a force multiplier for a lot of the folks that I work with.
Oh, that's awesome. And of course, a lot going on in the telecom world these days. So you probably know, your bell probably rings every pretty often, I would imagine.
Well, I think everybody, and it's not just telecom, honestly. I mean, I think everybody's dealing with just massive change and uncertainty these days. And the funny thing was, I was talking, and I actually have a newsletter, and I just published this today. And I was having a conversation with a young lawyer friend of mine in DC, and she said, I would just like to, for once, to live in precedented times. You
Really?
know, yeah, it's because everything is unprecedented. Unprecedented this, unprecedented that. It's just, I just want to live in a precedented moment. And I was like, that was such a clever turn of phrase. And it
Yeah.
feels like that for a lot of folks.
Oh, I think so because, of course, I've been in technology my whole career pretty much as well, and technology changes pretty rapidly. But there's some things well, some areas change slower than others, I guess, and so I've always been able to stay ahead of it. But lately, it seems like it's particularly with the advent of AI and some other things happening, the hyperscaler data centers and stuff like that. It's almost impossible to grasp the
Oh,
change that's
God.
going on, and how do you stay relevant, or how do you participate in that without taking
Totally.
tremendous risk?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I think so many companies are. I was talking to, there's a lot of firms out there that are trying to understand what's happening with this whole AI craze,
yeah,
right? And it's like, okay, well, how do I use it? But then also, hey, I'm seeing infrastructure coming in place, like data centers from hyperscalers. And, you've got real estate developers in there trying to expand out. You've got The utility companies, the power brokers are coming in. You've got bandwidth brokerage coming in. And then the fundamental question, and this goes back to some of the things we talk about maximizing business value. First question is, do you have a customer?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who's going
Uh,
to buy this from you?
exactly, exactly. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
always a little bit to that.
Well, one of the topics, or I think the main topic I really wanted to talk about today, is something you and I have run into, I think, several times with our clients, and that's succession planning.
Hmm.
And within particularly owner-led businesses, many times they're so heads down in the business that they go for a long time before they actually think about, wow, who's going to succeed me in this chair? And or they make an assumption about that and just carry on.
Right.
And when the time is comes about, it's like, oh, whoops, wait a minute, that's not what's playing out. So, what have you seen in terms of, what are the challenges for business owners in terms of succession planning?
Oh yeah. No, I think it's a great point. It seems like a very relevant topic. And if I can just kind of say, I mean, there was, so I'm also a certified exit planning advisor with Exit Planning Institute, and they had done some studies a while ago, and um, there's been this whole discussion for years about baby boomer generation leaving, and that's going to happen, and people are going to leave. Well, they had done some surveys, and this is back in sort of like 2014 to 2018 timeframe. And what they found is of the boomers, they really there wasn't as much of this push to leave as people had said.
Hmm.
But then over the past several years, they did an updated refresh of this. I think it was last year. And they found that there was a marked shift where sort of the boomers were
Yeah.
finally ready. And I think there was a lot of things happening. I think COVID really changed the game. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people were faced with their own mortality. They started to realize, hey, this stuff could actually happen. What am I going
Yep.
to do? What happens if people leave? And that's not, sort of got that piece going. And then, going back to my comment earlier about the precedented and unprecedented times. I mean, I talked to a lot of owners who are just like, I'm just tired.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
tired of dealing with it.
That's probably the
Uh,
number one thing I hear is that
yeah,
they kind of lost their zeal for whatever it is that they were doing, and I've got to believe maybe COVID had something to do with that. Even if their company may have been relatively unscathed through COVID, certainly
yeah,
they changed the way they worked. The dynamics at the office has changed. I've worked remote for many, many years, and I used to sell video conferencing equipment. In fact, before
mm.
Zoom, we sold very expensive teleconferencing equipment, video conferencing stuff. So it was I've been in that world a long time. I'm very comfortable with it, but I watched people struggle with COVID. I watched people that, trying, just struggling to do their day-to-day job. And I think that rubbed off on some of the business owners that I've been working with, in that it's not that they want to exit tomorrow, but they suddenly realize I don't really want to go through that again. I don't want to go through
Yeah.
another unprecedented time,
Yes, exactly.
and sail through that. So, what are the areas that you see? And I'll chime in
Yeah.
afterward too. But in terms of the various options that people have for succession planning, what are the
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
top three things that you see what people end up doing?
Well, the there's two sides to that answer. There's what I see people do, and then there's what we coach them to do.
You mean they're going
Um,
to listen to us every single
right, right.
time? I'm
Well,
reading
and
what you're saying.
I think I see this all the time. It's like somebody says, okay, well, I need to do succession planning. So, oh, I need to replace myself. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to find that perfect person, that unicorn that is out there who is just like me, does work the same way I do. And then
Yeah,
invariably, it never works out because that person is not you.
yeah,
And they don't do things the same way you do. They haven't gone through it. Or the other one I sometimes see is, hey, I'm going to bring in a family member. If that family member has been working in the business and actually understands it, well, that's actually a viable path. But I've seen a lot lately of, hey, I'm going to bring, my nephew, my niece in, is going to take this on. And they've never been through it. They don't, they're like a new employee. You're saying, I'm going to turn the keys of the kingdom over to somebody I literally just hired. I just happen to know them well.
Yeah.
I see them at holidays. So that's what I'm seeing people do, or they just say, well, I'm just going to hold on. Well, then they burn themselves out
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. They
And
kind of get that. I won't say desperate, but it's just not a good feeling when you
right,
realize you haven't found that person that's going to replace you.
exactly.
And then sometimes it's multiple people. And I've got a really good friend. I serve on a nonprofit board with him. So his wife's parents had a company. When they got married, he went to work for the company. He was just a sales guy for the company, and eventually became the sales manager. He was a real good sales guy. No ownership, no say in what goes on. Just do your sales thing. And then one day out of the blue, his wife's parents came in and said, we're done. We're gonna leave. You two are now running the company, and here are the keys. And it was a very, you know, heart-wrenching transfer of power, really,
Oh
for
gosh.
them and for the company itself, obviously.
Oh
So it was
yeah.
a really rough time, and they had to feel their way through. They had to, both of them had worked at the company, but they didn't know all the inner workings. They didn't know all the banking relationships. Certainly didn't know all the, dynamics of the employees behind the scenes, all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot they had to learn, not only about the industry,
Mhm.
but about the company, about themselves, and what roles they were going to take on. They made it through that, but still, it wasn't spectacularly successful company. It was holding its own.
Right.
In an industry, the manufacturing industry, where there's top tier, there's mid tier, there's bottom tier, and
Mhm.
they were midway up the bottom tier. They weren't huge. Um, and then their son expressed an interest in taking over the company. So that transfer that they did was very well orchestrated. And I will say, just kind of a commercial, a non-paid commercial, but what
Right.
happened
Right.
was that they had discovered EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating
Yeah.
System, and had implemented it within their company. And their son bought into EOS like hook, line, and sinker. He said, "This is awesome." So
Right.
that gave him the basis and the tools and structure to really become a CEO and take over the reins. And I've got to say that company has expanded tenfold since he took it over. So, and
It says a lot, and you
yeah,
just get that
yeah,
energy. But if you give them the right tool set,
yeah. So
those
it,
things.
it's really it's kind of a business fable. It's the wrong way to do it and maybe the right way to do it, within a family business, how to pass things
Absolutely,
along.
yeah.
But we've also, and I think you've seen this too. We've got businesses where there are no family members that have any
Yeah.
interest in
Hmm.
taking it over. So I know, kind of looking from the top, there's maybe three different ways people will look. They'll look, can we sell it to the employees? Can
Hmm.
we sell it to a strategic
Hmm.
outside party? Or can we sell it to a financial buyer that wants to buy us?
Right.
And what have you seen of the pluses and minuses of those three?
Well, I mean, I think it comes back to, and you had mentioned originally, and I frankly didn't answer your question exactly, like the challenges of succession planning, biggest challenges.
Yeah,
And there's sort of, a couple that just jump to mind. And both of those are sitting inside, these two ears. And that is, as an owner, how much of your identity is wrapped up in the business?
right.
And then related to that, number two is, what is the vision of kind of what's next? So how much have you separated yourself to be able to walk away from that business, as well as where are you trying to go? Now, as we can talk at length about, transferring your identity, but just on that other piece, that's more relevant, I think, to your question, because if I have a vision of where I'm trying to go, that's going to help drive what kind of decision makes sense for me. So if part of where I want to go and what I want to leave behind is that a family legacy, and there's a family member, that's potentially a real option for them.
Hmm.
If I want to leave it to employees, well, I mean, there's a couple different ways to leave it to employees. You can have sort of a management buyout approach, where you've got a team of managers and they're going to take that on. Or, a lot of times people like to look at ESOPs, employee stock own, or some version of like a virtual stock plan.
Sure.
Those There are specific requirements financially that you're going to want to hit. You want to be a certain size. You want to have a certain
Yeah.
level of stability in your financial cash flow for those things to make sense. But those can be a great way to move forward. Now, if you are hoping to get a large payout, those sometimes are more challenged relative to going to a third party because a third party is going to bring, you could get strategic buyers, you could have somebody with a bigger balance sheet, they can pay up relative
Yeah.
to the others. You may be able to get more cash, you may not. I don't know. It's just depend. So it really boils back down to, well, what do you want? What's your situation? And that's
Yeah.
going to guide what those exit options are going to look like.
Yeah. And I've encountered a couple of clients that we've had that we had for a period of time, and we kind of got to the end of what we could do for them. And a lot of that was around the succession side. So we helped them I won't say straighten out, but just improve their business
Yeah.
and make it more profitable and actually have, the structure within the business changed and made it stronger. And all that was good. In this particular case, they really wanted to sell the business to two key employees that had been with them for like 10 to
Mhm.
15 years. And these people had contributed a lot to the growth of the company. They were good managers and were good at what they were doing. They weren't necessarily equipped to run a company though.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
owners kind of knew that. I mean, they kind of knew that it will be a struggle for these guys to run the company. And so they're kind of at an impasse. They said, how do we, there are two things. One, how do we sell it to them and how do they pay for it? Uh,
Right.
is number one. And number two is they weren't 100% sure that those guys can run the company, that they may not be the right people. They're probably the
Mhm.
right people even to own the company or to still keep key management positions, but they probably weren't the right to be the CEO, and so that's a big one. That's a challenge. And that's one where we really just said, there's myriad of ways to do that. We gave them some advice, but right now they're still sitting on zero because they haven't really figured out how to make that next step.
Well, yeah, I mean, and to your point, I mean, Dave, I mean, when we talk about succession planning, it's not like somebody's going to walk in, and if somebody does this, I just have to kind of pause. It's not like somebody's going to just hand you a giant document, a PowerPoint deck, and all the answers, and you just simply follow it and everything will work.
Right.
The succession planning is actually a process, and
Yeah, it
it's
is.
a process that works over time, and you have to think through. Yeah, I just, if I can for a moment, when I'm coaching folks, I'm always like, first thing, remember this: I'm not replacing you. We're replacing what you do.
Yeah,
Separate those. And by the way, if you haven't written down what you do, well, how are we going to make sure we're getting somebody who can cover those
yeah,
things?
yeah,
And then when you look at what you do, the next step you can say is, what do you have on your plate that you shouldn't be doing in the first place? Is there somebody already on the team? Going back to our comments on AI, should you
yeah,
just have you picked up something that you can just get an AI agent to run? And so as you start to go through this process, you start to narrow down what actually you need to find.
yeah,
And then you can say, do I have somebody internally? In your case, as you mentioned, hey, maybe they're good at these things. Maybe they understand sort of the financials of the business, or they're good at ops, but they've got a big gap in sort of sales capability and generating revenue. So I need to either train them up if I believe they have the capacity to do that, or I got to bring in
yeah,
somebody who can do that part of it. And that's what I mean. Like a succession plan it's not just hey, I'm going to replace you. It's like you have to really kind of do that hard work to figure out
yeah.
what are those pieces. And
Well,
then
and
you
I
have to
think
keep going.
too, and this is something where I think Mastery brings a lot of value to the table. If you look at our website and look at our even our core values, one of the things that we talk about is that we create possibilities for business owners. That's a big thing that we talk about, and it's not just a pie in the sky deal. A lot of it is a business owner I was guilty of this in my business. I was heads down working on my business. I really wasn't looking at more than a year out, really long range planning, maybe 2 years. Um, um, and I probably the longest term thing I did was sign an office lease for, for 5 or 7 years. So, you know, but there's possibilities that always exist, and a lot of times when we work with business owners, we may walk in and they may say, we're ready to exit. We think we got a plan. We got two key employees, or the right guys. We want to sell that company to them. They're eager to take it over. We'll have to figure out how they're going to pay for it, but we'll work through that. But they haven't looked at any other possibilities. They haven't looked at what would it look like to continue to grow the company, and just as you just mentioned, step back, step by step, where you're less and less a part of the day to day. And you could go to Europe for 3 months and not worry about
Mhm.
your company. You've got a really good
Absolutely.
team running it. Or that you've now built the company to where it's an investment grade company. There's outside
Mhm.
money that are eager to talk to you about taking maybe a minority position in your company and helping you really spectacularly grow. Or you may be attractive to a strategic buyer. And sometimes people just narrow their horizons so much they don't think about those things.
Right.
And that's I think that's one of the values that we can bring.
Yeah, I have some. You're absolutely right, and I think one of the benefits I've always found, in whether it's necessarily just in this issue or any issues, when you bring somebody in externally, they're looking at things completely differently
Yeah.
from you are. And that just that view has tremendous value because it can unlock things that you just were not on your radar screen.
Yep.
Seen it time and again. People just were like, I had no idea that this existed. We chatting with one owner and talking about working with some of our partners in terms of how would you manage the potential tax consequences if you decided to sell,
Yeah.
and opening up their idea, their mind of, I had no idea that this kind of a mechanism was out there that could have really address a lot of the tax exposure. So, I mean, there's so many different things that I agree with you. It's just there's huge value in that, and I see that in all the folks that we work with.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. And those are the things you just touched on, kind of make me think about the time frame deal, and that succession planning. We certainly urge our clients to start thinking about it today, if you haven't
Mhm.
already, and try to keep an open mind of there might be 5 or 7 different paths that you could follow there, but all of those probably take some time to execute. It may mean, moving people around within your company. It may mean hiring new folks. It may
Yeah.
need exploring some outside investment thing, different things that will lead to your succession plan. Um, the the other piece that you just touched on was the tax implications of an exit, and we've got a whole other podcast that talks about that. But
Yeah.
that
Lots of
that is
resources.
something also that it's probably a 3-year process. Some of the things that you need to do or you may need to change have to be done 3 years before you exit, or up to 3 years before you exit.
Mhm.
So those are things that I don't think business owners, they just figure out, well, I've got a big payday coming. It's going to be in September, so I better start thinking now what I'm going to do about that. Well, it's a little late, for a lot of
Yeah.
that. So
Well, I think yeah, when we talk about these topics and the time it takes, and we're talking about succession, I think it's important for people to also not forget that the other critical reason for succession is contingency.
yeah.
So, what happens to the business if something happens to you? What happens to your family
Hmm.
if something happens to the business that's providing for them?
Yeah.
And you have to think through those things. And the other those are sort of things that are very personal, but there are other issues in the business. I was actually speaking at a conference just a couple months ago on succession planning and involved people. It was sales and marketing professionals. And it was because many of them were reaching that point in their career and they were wanting to figure out, well, what do I do next?
Yeah.
And the same tools that we're talking about, understanding what you do, breaking things apart, finding the right people, handing off those pieces, make sure document. All of those things apply. And so if you look around your business, we talk about succession planning at Mastery, but we also, when we do our TRA, our transition readiness assessment, there's a critical question we ask, and that is, do you have a success plan for
Yeah.
every one of your employees? And the success plan is not a succession plan. Success plan is what are you doing to make your people successful? What are you doing to understand what they want and how do you keep them around? Because it is so much better to keep them around than have to lose them and go hire and bring somebody else
Yeah.
up at the huge disruption. And that so this is sort of another way of addressing succession, even inside your own organization, making sure that everybody's got a plan for themselves and how they're going to be, better off continuing to work there, how they're going to grow, what kind of environment that you're going to create for them.
Yeah, and that's boy, was I guilty of that too, because I tended to try to find people and try to get them in the right seat, right?
Hmm.
And that's an age-old deal that you read Good to Great or any of the books. I mean, it's all important. And so I would find somebody and get them in the right seat, and they're successful and they're happy and everything. And I'm thinking, okay, that's done. Now I got to move on. Well, the problem is it's not a steady state deal. Somebody maybe doing accounts payable and be really super happy doing that. But their ultimate goal is to be a controller or to do the next level job. And if we haven't built a plan for them, no matter how good they are, how happy they are in their job, they may start looking for another job if you
Right.
haven't provided that, or at least haven't talked to them about it.
Oh yeah,
And,
absolutely.
that's been a well, and it's amazing the companies that we've run across that where that those conversations never really happen. When they describe
Right.
their team, they'll just say, "Oh yeah, I got the super person here, everything's clicking, everything's great, and great. What's that person's next position? Wow,
Right.
they'll never leave that position. They love that. So
Well, and just kind of building it all the way back to succession planning, some of the examples you just said is like, okay, I'm the owner and I've identified these people are going to take over for me.
yeah,
Great. Have you talked to them? Do they know that this is the plan? Do they know this is coming?
yeah,
And I actually get sometimes actually people say, no, I haven't talked to them about it. And I'm like, you may want to have a conversation
yeah.
because if they leave, your whole plan just blew up.
Yeah, I've got a great friend. He's a mentor for our Biz Owners Ed group. That he has founded and grown, I would say, a half a dozen different companies. And every time when he does it, he started a company about 7 years ago, and he told everybody that worked there and everybody that came in the door, I'm here for a while. I'm going to be leaving this company at some point,
Mhm.
but I've got really big goals where we want to get to, and he's kept moving the goal up because he kept hitting them. So, but he's still there. But he knows that he's going to leave at some point, and everybody that works there knows that too.
Right.
And many of them are eager. They said, "Wow, they know that when he leaves, when there's an event, a liquidity event, they will benefit greatly from that." And if he goes and starts another one, they'll be right there beside him because he's the kind of guy that they want to follow. So I think having those open communications is vital. I mean, it's really, really important.
And just, I'd love to kind of toss that question back to you, Dave. So, if you're a business owner and you're listening to this and you're thinking about leaving, I mean, how do you have that conversation? When do
Yeah.
you bring that up with them?
I think we do that if we've done things correctly, like we just described. If we always have the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year discussion with each employee and just say, where do you see yourself in 1 year? Where do you see yourself in 3 years? Where would you be in 5 years? Um, and then reveal your own. A year
Mhm.
from now, I'd like to be spending less time here at the company, more time with my family. Maybe my kids are at a certain age. I really want to do that. 3 years from now, I'd like to find somebody to take over operations for this company that I'm doing right now. And in 5 years from now, I'd love to be doing something else. So it's not a threat. It's a 5 year down the road thing, but they get the idea. Sooner or later, Dave won't be here, that kind
Yeah.
of deal.
No, that's a great approach. That's a great approach.
Yeah, it's been. That's been intriguing, really intriguing. So, you know, one last question. This is always the Maximize Business Value podcast. So I've got a question for you.
Hmm.
What's the one most important thing that you would recommend to people to do to build value in their business? Got to pick one. See, that's hard.
Well, and there's always so many, but I mean, I think keeping in the spirit and the vein of what we're talking about when it comes to succession, I think the most important thing that you can be doing is sitting down and writing out what your thoughts are
Yeah.
on your succession plan right now.
Yeah.
How would you answer that, Dave?
I was thinking that something in the similar vein, and there is and this goes into not only succession planning, but it actually goes into life planning. And there's within the Vistage community, they have a thing called the green box exercise, and you may be familiar with it. It's essentially putting all of your affairs in order, essentially, as if you weren't going to be here. And it's everything from all your insurance policies, all your credit card numbers, your logins to every website that you do, all that kind of stuff. In addition to, and this is the hardest part, I'm in the midst of this right now, is writing letters to those that you care about, and telling them, what they mean to you, but also what you hope for them. And this can be your children, your spouse, people that you work with. And even beyond that, on the business side, one of the things that caught my eye that this thing asks you to do is write down for ideas you've had about your business or about a business or an opportunity or a dream that you've had that you've never executed on yet. So even things that you haven't decided, we want to go that direction, or I want to take the company that direction. So it's a powerful exercise, I think, to do that. But that just when you said write things down, I think that was an extension of
Oh, I don't know.
that
I think you
thought.
just blew my answer out of the water. That was
Yeah,
really
that's a cool. I mean, it's a
um,
cool way to think of
no,
things.
it is
So
a good way to think about it though. And
yeah,
yeah, I love the green box.
yeah.
Always ask people to be looking at that.
And I think and I agree. It's got to be one of the most important things you can do to maximize the value of what you built as a business owner. Um, because, as you said, you never know what's going to happen. It may be a very planned exit. Everything goes according to Hoyle. There may be a sudden exit for whatever reason, and you will certainly, if you do follow those guidelines, I think you'll maximize the value that you or your family receives, or from that transaction. So,
Yeah.
man, it's been great to visit.
Yeah,
We need to
same
do
here.
these things a little more often. This is a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is fun to do. So I want to close this, and then hopefully we'll be tuning in for some future ones. So again, this is Terry. I can't thank you enough for spending the time with us. This is the Maximize Business Value podcast. It's really a place where we give practical advice to business owners to build long-term sustainable value in their business. We hold these every week, so be sure to tune in, subscribe, follow us, whatever. We're on all the platforms. Pass it on to your friends and neighbors. And until next week, we'll see you later.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Maximize Business Value podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas on how you can continue driving value in your business. But remember, it's not just about listening. It's about taking massive action. Visit our website, masterypartners.com, for more resources. Grab a copy of any of the books in the Maximize Business Value series on Amazon or via the links below. And don't hesitate to reach out if you want to know how to apply these concepts to your business. So until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to relentlessly execute while you maximize business value.